So friends, you are all welcome to this second day of the series of VCMs. Today session will be dealt by CA Abhijit Sangri sir. He is a very much experienced speaker. He will be sharing his knowledge on AQMM. Friends, before Abhijit sir take over this seminar, let me play the motto song. We need not stand, but as a mark of respect, we can place our hand on our heart. Give me a second to play the motto song.
येष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति येष सुप्तेषु जाग्रति कामं 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 कामंशो पुरुषो निर्मिमाणः निर्मिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतमुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकः शतः सर्वे तदूनात्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता
I request the chairperson to give her opening remarks.
Thanks, sir. Respected today's resource person, C. Abhijit Sangri sir, and colleagues at Managing Committee and Vice Chairman of Vijayawada Branch and fellow members, very good evening to one and all. I welcome you all for the today's VCM and overview of AQMM, Audit Quality Maturity Model. Members, you all know Audit Quality Maturity Model is a tool for self-evaluation of audit firms and sole proprietor towards technology-driven mechanism to increase the operational efficiency. It focuses mainly on continuous improvement of the audit firms. Presently, it is recommendatory in nature, and our today's resource person, C. Abhijit Sangri sir, will throw light on basic concepts and AQMM version 1 and related aspects.
Yes, thank you, madam. Let me say a few words about C. Abhijit sir. He practiced for the last. Madam, I think your connection is not fine.
Okay.
So I have taken over.
Okay.
Right. Thank you for those words. C. Abhijit sir has 3 decades of experience, and he's a speaker at various professional firms for the last 2 decades. He's an interviewer, blogger, examiner, author, mentor, and a corporate employee. Sir, it's over to you to take over the session forward.
Thank you. And I'll come straight away on this audit quality maturity model. I've spoken on this topic various times. I've been a part of the audit quality maturity model team, which actually made this questionnaire. So have some background about why this was done and what needs to be done to ensure that we perform as to quality. So foremost, thanks for inviting me to share my views on this topic. Today, I'm going to do a bit differently. What I used to do is when I used to speak on this, I used to give a background on what quality is. I used to give a background on SQC1, and I used to give a background on the standards of auditing, because AQMM has a maturity model, which is a rating model, which is currently recommendatory, but I presume this may be mandatory shortly, or even if it is not mandatory, the auditee may insist that the auditor should get himself rated, and wherever it is applicable, the organizations may prefer the firm where the rating is higher because they are assured of a benchmark quality rated firm auditing their accounts. So AQMM is truly important and will gain in importance over a period of time. The institute is doing the right thing by insisting branches to conduct at least 2 programs once in a year to spread awareness. And irrespective of the fact that one may or may not be doing the firms where this is mandatory or this will be mandatory, it's good to know where we stand, or it's good to follow the practices which are given there. So one is, why was the AQMM set up? Why? The why is key. One is, the objective is clearly to enhance audit quality. There are various stakeholders, and various stakeholders depend on the financial statements. There could be regulators, they could be investors, they could be suppliers, they could be employees, society at large, the global community. All will at times and in situations depend on the financial statement. So you need to have some trust and some credibility going into the people who actually audit those financial statements. And then what is quality? Quality is a complex subject. It may mean various things to various people. So there is no standard universal definition of quality. It's as the word itself, it's a qualitative concept. So somewhere down the line, the regulators would want some number or benchmark to it. So what we always say is, what can be measured quantitatively can be improved. So here we are trying to have some number or some scores. People may find at times the markings to be subjective or may not agree completely with it. But yes, this would be universal across firms, and that gives some standardization in the market. So one, it's as we said, a complex subject of quality, meaning various things to various people. Will then go into the flashback once we study AQMM, what the various clauses are, what various markings are. And this maturity model talks of audit quality, and it talks of the improvement in audit quality at 3 levels. One is the engagement level itself. So if you are doing an assignment, that assignment, it talks of audit quality at the firm level, and it talks audit quality of firms in toto, so at the national level. So it's the engagement, firm, and the national level. So that's what AQMM in broad macro is trying to do and is all about. Now, what exactly is the framework trying to give? So there are some key elements of audit quality. So those elements, the framework tries to raise awareness about. Various stakeholders are there. So it encourages various stakeholders to explore ways in which you can enhance this audit quality. So as you say, you are a continual student, excellence is a moving target, you are improving daily bits and pieces. So it's always a compounding effect. Perfection is a myth. It's the gradual incremental changes which really matter. So that's various ways in which you can brainstorm, you can validate, you can give feedbacks on how audit quality is to be improved. It facilitates greater dialogue between various stakeholders on audit quality. So each one would be at a different page. Each one may have a different perception. So whatever is perception, perception trumps reality. So you need to have all those things on one plate and then have a universal consolidated view on this. And the key is obviously to have dialogues. You speak about quality, you talk about quality, you breathe, live quality day in, day out, and that's how it's going to improve. So the key is have continuous talks about quality. Quality should be something which you should wear up your sleeve. It should be in your DNA. So quality is mandatory. Quality is non-negotiable as far as implementation in spirit is concerned. As far as this letter of law is concerned, yes, it is not mandatory, but in spirit, I think we should imbibe and follow these principles ASAP. So what is the roadmap? What you need to do? So first is, there is this audit quality maturity model. There is a questionnaire which is given, which we will come back in some time. Let's benchmark ourselves to this questionnaire. Now, when we talk about benchmarking, what do we actually do? This is the questionnaire. These are the marks. These are the marks we have got. So if the max marks are 8, we've got 2. Then why haven't we got the maximum marks? So we are at mark 2. We want to go to mark 8. Then what are the steps? What are the methods? What is the process? What is the methodology we need to follow to go to that level? So how do we go up the curve? How do we go up the maturity model curve? So once we benchmark to a current level, if we are at, let's say, level 1, we need to go to level 2. What do we do? What does it take to go to level 2? So how do we plan? What are the initiatives we take? What are the timelines we have decided? And whether we are sticking to those timelines, if we are behind, how do we need to catch up? So it's all about planning. It's all about taking the initiatives. It's all about benchmarking. It's all about the timelines. Now you have planned, you have taken initiatives, you have maintained timelines. But then the proof of the pudding is really in the eating. How will you execute it? If you don't execute, if you don't implement it perfectly, it's all operations. Strategy is fine. So you may have a controlled design in place, but unless it is not operating effectively, the effectiveness should be there. So what are the resources? Have these resources been identified? Have they been trained? Are they being compensated so that they execute this plan? So you need to fix responsibility and define accountabilities. Who is responsible? Who will do what? Who will do what when? Who will do what when? Why and how? So that's all which needs to be defined and it needs to be implemented. And then as it's going on, how do we monitor? How do we assess the progress? And how do we again revalidate it against, you already have a digital competency maturity model and you map it against that, you map it against the AQMMA and you do a half-yearly review. If you can do a quarterly review also, but half-yearly is a good, decent time gap. So you monitor whether you're getting more marks. You may monitor whether you've gone up the curve or within the curve. Yes, you are still within the curve, but you are at much better marks and just looking to leapfrog to the next level. So that's how you assess progress and revalidate. And you can also have a peer reviewer perform a review engagement so that currently this is a self-assessment questionnaire, but you could have a external assessment done so that external assessment becomes more independent. There could be a tendency to give either oneself lower marks. We can be harshly critical on ourselves, or we could end up giving more marks to ourselves. So maybe you might have a third party giving you the scores independently. So that's what is the external validation which needs to be done. So that's the roadmap which you follow. I'm at level X. I want to go to level Y. This is how I would go ahead. This is how I would plan. This is how I'll maintain timeline. This is how I'll identify the resources who will execute the plan. This is how I'll monitor. This is how I'll assess the progress. If I'm lacking behind, this is what I'll do on an extra basis to go ahead. And finally, I'll perform external checks to ensure that whatever I have assessed, somebody else externally and objectively is also assessing the same. So then it's all about measurement. Whenever I used to speak on AQMM, I used to first speak on the essays. I used to speak on the SQC1, and SQC1 is all about quality control policies and procedures. And AQMM takes, it's very hard from the standards of auditing. And standards of auditing need to be implemented whenever we are doing an audit of historical financial information. And standards of auditing is all about documentation. It's about doing a particular thing in a particular manner. It's all about quality. You have SA 220 on quality. You have SQC1. You have all the essays which talk on materiality, which talk on audit evidence, which talk on risk assessment. It talks about frauds. It talks about communication. It talks about qualifications. It talks about using the work of experts. So all along you have various ways in which you would deal with the audit. So is there a formal structured way in which you conduct the audit? Do you have written policies and procedures in place which you adopt so that you don't deviate? And if you are deviating, you can measure the deviation and you can again quickly get it back on track. And then it talks a lot about ethics. So it's all about your independence. It's all about your objectivity. It's all about your transparency. It's all about your competency. It's all about your professional behavior. Is it something that you can perform without fear, without reprisal? Are you really independent in letter of law and in spirit? You can conduct the audit without any stress, whether any pressure. You can easily raise concerns, raise issues. You can qualify a report. You can issue an adverse report. You can issue a disclaimer without any retaliation from the SSE, without the fear that you might not get the audit. And there is protection from the regulators, there's protection from the institute. So your independence is preserved. And then based on the circumstances, whether you are reporting appropriately, whether if there is a need for a qualification, you have given a qualification. If there's a need for an adverse opinion, you have given so. If there is a disclaimer, you have given so. If there are CAMs which need to be inserted, you have stated the CAMs. If there is a matter of emphasis or other matters to be stated, you have stated that. So you have discharged your duties truly as an auditor to give a true and fair view. If there are any material misstatements, you need to point out. Otherwise, your basic duty is to state that the balance sheet is free from material misstatements and gives a true and fair view of the assets and the liabilities and the P&L of the profit and loss for the year ended on that date, and also of the cash flow position. So that's what you need to do. And how you would do it. You'll follow the essays, you'll follow the SQCs, and there are standard procedures, policies in place which are documented, and they serve as a benchmark, they serve as a guideline to see that you perform the work as you are needed to and as you are told by the essays and the SQCs. So what are the general weaknesses which a peer reviewer has noted, which the audit quality maturity model team which laid about to form this studied upon, and the backdrop on which this was done? So the key is that the audit documentation is just not proper. And if you see the essays, essay 230 just gives a broad overview that audit documentation needs to be done. Various essays talks of what needs to be documented. So if materiality, what is materiality? So what is materiality that you have considered needs to be documented? Essay 315, what is the risk assessment you have done? You need to document that. What is the auditor's response to assess risk? Essay 330, you need to document that. Essay 550, related parties, SA5T written representations, SA240, what is the audit evidence you have taken? How have you taken it? What have you resorted to confirmations? What have you resorted to physical checks? Whatever are balance confirmations you have taken, how have you taken it? What is the sampling methodology you have used? So all of these need to be documentation. So the main finding of the peer reviewer is that the documentation as required by SAs is not maintained. One, there is no quality manual in place, nor is it maintained, nor is it practiced. Your SQC1 clearly talks about maintenance of an audit quality manual, but that audit quality manual is sorely lacking in most of the firms, especially the small firms, which was what the peer reviews, the consolidation noted. Management representation letters were not taken in most of the places, or wherever management representation letters were taken, they were just given. They were just basically yes answers to the questions which were raised by the auditors. Or in some cases, it was even noted that the auditors also had written the answers to what they wanted to the questions they had only raised. So it's the MRL was also prepared by the auditors. It was just signed by the auditee. So just a formality without actually giving a representation and without actually truly knowing what was being given. So written communications with those charged with governance. At various points of time, there were discussions that were happening with the management by the auditee. So you discuss with the functional head, you discuss with the CEO, with the CFO, with the board, with the audit committee. So whatever are these oral discussions, they have not been recorded, they have not been minuted, and they have not been captured as audit evidence. So it's mostly written communication missing. Oral communication as required by SA 260, 265 has not been translated effectively into written communication. And simply SAs and SQCs, SQC1 have not been followed. So nothing surprising in it. The extent to which this is not followed may come as a surprise because this is pervasive across levels. It's not something that these were inadvertent cases. In majority, we noted that these errors were there. And this is what we wanted to basically rectify. And this is where the AQMM stepped in. So the AQMM was developed by the Center of Audit Quality. And what we did was we went about taking inputs, we took all the outputs that were applicable, and we decided to do it at 3 levels. One is at the engagement level, the basic engagement that we conduct. Then we did it at the firm level and at the national level across. So this is a part of the national level awareness that we are doing, is that we are creating that awareness at the national level so that it seeps down to the firm. And once it seeps down to the firm, it will seep down at an engagement level. So either way, you have a top-down or a bottom-up approach. So from the engagement to the firm to the national, from the national to the firm to the engagement level. And it is made applicable to certain quality of firms which do certain audits. So we'll come to that where in the first place this will be applicable and made mandatory. But once again, I reiterate that it need not be only to the firms which are in that mandatory first phase. It could be done by all firms basically to gauge where they actually stand. And we framed certain indicators. So one was practice management, which we divided into strategic and functional. Then operations. And then it was HR. And a methodology of marking was arrived at on how we would mark this so that overall we get certain marks, and based on the marks, we would decide at which level the firm is currently standing. And these are the marks they have got. So from what you are to what you actually want to be, what is the gap and how you would go there is what this AQMM roadmap, the AQMM journey, the AQMM process is all about. So let's look at it further. So who would this apply at the initial stage? So it's recommendatory for 1 year. It's been recommendatory from 1st of July. Maybe from 30th June, we may take a call on its mandatory applicability. But even if it were to be made mandatorily applicable for firms who are doing their following audits to get themselves rated. So this will first apply to firms which are doing audits of listed entities, firms which are doing audits of banks, and that will include multi-state banks, but that will exclude cooperative bank, and this will not be applicable to a bank branch auditor. So only who is a central statutory auditor currently at phase 1, this would apply. Whoever is doing audits of insurance companies, to those firms, this will apply. So banks, excluding cooperative banks and bank branches, insurance companies, and all listed entities, whoever are doing the audits of these concerns, the rating exercise will be applicable in the initial phase. Whenever it's made mandatory, currently it's only recommendatory. And the council will finally decide the date on which it applies mandatorily, and that review will be taken somewhere in the next year, somewhere in June 23. And what it states is that whatever is the rating that you have got, whether you have done it internally or you have got it validated externally by a peer review, this cannot be advertised, this cannot be publicized, this cannot be mentioned on any public domain, or can it be stated on any letterhead, on any visiting card, or any signboard, website, as that would tantamount to solicitation, which is not allowed, and it's professional misconduct. So I can't say I am at level 3 in my letterheads, or I can't say that I am a level 3 AQMM firm. I cannot publicly state it. It's only if I'm doing an audit and somebody asks me what is the AQMM level that you are having and have you rated yourself for it. And this is where, when there is a pull, I would state it. I will not push my rating. Only if somebody is asking for a rating, I will give it to him. And that again, I have to give it to him in strict confidence on a one-on-one basis. It can't be made available publicly. So it's only on a specific pull basis, whenever needed, whenever required, that I will furnish the rating. Now, actual markings. So we have 600 marks, 3 parts. We have practice management operations, which is 280 marks, with 280 out of 600 is about 46.67 marks. And out of the total questions, almost similar, 48.86% of the questions. Then you have HRM, which is 240 marks, which is 35.23% of the questions and 40% of the marks. And practice management, strategic and functional, which is 13.33% marks, and the number of questions as a percentage to total questions is 15.91. And at certain cases, there are 0 marks and there are negative markings also. So if you see, strategy is important. Strategy has 80 marks out of 600. But more important than having a strategy is to actually implement and operationalize it. So that's where practice management operations has 280 or the maximum marks. And one great thing which I truly like about the AQMM is the emphasis on HR, is the emphasis on human resource. Though technology is material, the human resource is hugely critical, and that's where the AQMM has truly laid emphasis on the human element, the HRM, and 40% marks are devoted to this area. Now, within each of these three parameters, there are various criterias and there are various questions. So in all, we have 88 questions amongst the three criterias. In practice management operations, we have 280 marks as we have 9 criterias totaling to 43 questions. In HRM, 40% marks, 240 marks out of 600. We have 9 criterias again, but 31 questions. So operations has the same 9 criterias, 43 questions. HRM has also 9 criterias, but 31 questions. And practice management, strategic and functional has 80 marks, 3 criterias and 14 questions. So you have in all 3 parameters, 21 criterias in the 3 parameters, one with 9, one with again with 9 and one with 3. And you have total 88 questions, one with 43, one with 31, and the next with 14. So 88 questions, 21 criterias, 600 marks, and that's what AQMM is all about. And you rate yourself. There are marks. So level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. Level 1, if you have less than 25% marks overall. So overall, if you are less than 150, and within any single criteria, if you are less than the marks in that criteria, so technically in practice management operations, if you are less than 70, if in HRM you are less than 60, and in practice management strategy functional you are less than 20, though overall you may be having more than 150 and you would be in level 2, but because in the internal criteria you are less than 25% of the marks of that particular criteria, you would be in that level, so you would be in level 1. Similarly with level 2 is between 25 and 50. So though you may have overall 50% marks, but within the criteria you have less than 50%, then you will be in the slot of less than 50 and you will be in level 2. So that's how it goes in level 3 and level 4. So level 4 is the ultimate level one can aspire. But level 3 is something which all should target to get. And level 2 is something where most of us should lie initially. Level 1 is a strict no-no. We just cannot be at level 1. We have to start at level 2 and eventually aim to go at level 3. Level 4, currently, I won't say that it is beyond our reach, but level 4 is an aspirationally at this time. Let's look at consolidating ourselves in level 2 and level 3, because before we take a sustained jump on a continuous basis at level 4. So this is what it's all about. I take a minute break, maybe any question before now I go on the actual markings and the actual questions. Any questions at this stage?
Sir,
Any questions?
the participants are allowed to unmute themselves and ask any query.
I think this is pretty straightforward, and I hope all participants have synced and are in tune with that. So
Yes,
finally,
sir.
yeah,
Yes, sir. All are following.
fine,
Maybe,
fine.
yes.
So, I'll share the screen. Yeah. So just to recap, 600 marks, 3 criterias, practice management operations, 280 marks, 9 criterias, 43 questions, HRM, 240 marks, again 9 criteria, 31 questions, and practice management functional and strategic, 80 marks, 3 criterias, 13 questions, overall 88 questions. So that's what this is all about. Now, let's take practice management operations. We've seen that there are 9 evaluation criteria. Now let's look at what these criteria are. So there are 43 questions overall. So within each criteria, there are certain questions and there are certain marks. So one criteria is on practice area of the firm. There are 12 marks, 2 questions. There is a question on workflows, practice manuals, 2 questions, 16 marks. Quality review manuals or audit tools, 6 questions, 24 marks. Service delivery effort monitoring, 4 questions, 36 marks. Quality control, very important, 6 questions, 80 marks. Benchmarking of service delivery, 4 questions, 16 marks each. Client sensitization, 2 questions, 16 marks each. Technology adoption. So technology plays a key part, 14 questions, 64 marks. Revenue budgeting and pricing, 3 questions, 16 marks. So overall, these are the 43 questions with 280 marks. So let's go one by one practice area of the firm. So then it's HRM. 31 questions. In that 31 questions, there are 5 criteria. One is resource planning and monitoring, 28 marks. And there are 6 questions. Employee training and development, 4 questions, 44 marks. Resources, turnover and compensation management, 14 questions, 104 marks. Employee qualifications, skill sets, usage of experts, 3 questions, 32 marks. How does the firm measure its key performance indicators? 4 questions, 32 marks. And in practice management, strategic and financial, we have 3 evaluation criteria, 80 marks, total 14 questions, which we said. In practice management, there are 3 questions with 20 marks. On infrastructure, physical and others, we have 5 questions with 48 marks. And practice credentials, that's where we have 6 questions and we have 12 marks. So now let's go to each question and how the marking system is one by one. But once again, to reiterate, we have 4 levels, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, up to 25% marks. If we score less than 25%, we are at level 1. If we even have more than 25% marks, but we have less than 25% marks in any of the single criteria of the 3 criteria, will still be in level 1. And level 1 is what we call is at the nascent stage, the initial stage. And immediate steps must be taken to upgrade ourselves and go to the next level. So level 1 is something which is not looked upon as something which we should have, especially for firms which are doing audits of listed companies, of banks, and of insurance companies. Level 2, we know 25 to 50%. Some progress has been done, so they are not at the nascent stage. But still a lot needs to be done. A lot of fine tuning is to be done to reach higher levels of competency. So a level 2 firm, yes, it's not a beginner, but it's not up there either. And it needs to do a lot of work to go to level 3. Level 3 is the one which is the minimum level in which one should be. So level 3 is with less than 75% marks. And level 3 firms are the firms where there's a significant adoption of standards and procedures. But still something needs to be done so that these can be optimized further and you can go to the topmost level. And level 4, the topmost level. So it indicates that firms have made a significant progress so that they have moved from level 3 to level 4. And now they should only focus on refining and sustaining it at a long-term basis so that you remain forever in level 4 with either the same marks or with some minor increase in marks. So you're very close to as good, as excellent, or as perfect you can get as far as the maturity level is concerned. So with this backdrop, maybe each of one initially when I went to it, I also said, yes, okay, I might be at level 2. Let me try it. Level 3. I'm definitely not at level 0 or I'm not at level 4. So that's the initial first thoughts which may come to you. But do a test. You will be pleasantly surprised by where you stand, because there are various areas where we've really not looked into or given lip service. So this is a good wake-up call for us to look into those areas and strengthen ourselves in these areas. So the first, the practice management operations. This is what we said. These are 280 marks. So the first question is whether your revenue from audit and assurance services are more than 50% consistently over the last 3 years. And that would be considered as specialization. And there is exception for if you have acquired a firm or a group of professionals. So the point is you would do various works. You would do taxation, you would do accounting work, you would be doing various ways. You could be doing stock audits, you would be doing concurrent audits, you would be doing internal audits, you would be doing statutory audits. The question is, what percentage of your revenue is from audit and assurance services, and they are taking a 3-year period? If it is 50% consistently, it's yes, or if it's no. And based on that, you will have marks. So there are 4 marks for that. Now, this is something where you may not be having that because this is factual. So if it's no, you need not give 0. Based on how less or how close you are to the maximum marks, if you're more than 50%, you've got 4 marks. But if you're 40, maybe you can reduce 1 or 1.5 and be at 2.5. You need not be yourself at 0. The next is, do we have a vision and mission statement for addressing forward-looking practice statements and plans? Now, scoring is based on marks also, and scoring is based on implementation. So there are 4 marks. So vision statement to make is nothing great. I can just make it. It can be my lofty ideal, my lofty goal, my dream, my aspiration. It's where my desired state, where I would like to be, what I would like to really do, what really makes me competently happy. That's not just having a vision and mission. It's whether you are implementing that vision and mission and living it in your daily practice. That's where you get the marks. So if you just have a vision and a mission statement without any effective implementation in letter and in spirit, then you might not get more than 2 marks. So it depends. How would you rate yourself? And how would you consider yourself that you are implementing your vision and mission? Obviously, everybody may, even if we may be implementing it, there is definitely a lot of scope for improvement. So you will never get full marks, but 3.5, whatever you are allocating, is that a methodology, a process which you are living by and addressing your vision and mission practically every living day. Then you have another 8 marks. So whether you have audit manuals, which contains the firm methodology that ensures compliance with the essays and implementation of essays. So whether you have essay audit manuals, and that essay audit manuals ensure that you are complying with the essays and there is no deviation from the essay. So whether these are structured manuals in place. So do you have standard formats? If there are standard formats and you are using standard essay quality formats, you've complied with this section. Now, if you are having letters of engagement, when you accept any assignment, whether you have a practice of asking for representation letters and getting it, whether you have noted all your significant working papers and documented it safe and sound, whether you have all possible reports which you need to see, the MIS reports, the exception reports, and how these are monitored, how these are implemented. If you have all these, then you get max about 8 marks. Depending on the levels which you have or you don't have, you may cut down your marks. Now, do you have a client engagement acceptance checklist? And is there an adequate documentation of the same? You get 4 marks for that. So the moment I get an engagement, do I have a client engagement letter issued? Do I have a client acceptance checklist that these are the criteria on which I would accept a client? If those criteria are not met, then I would not accept it. So is this actually maintained and followed? And is this done at the time of acceptance, or is it just because maybe for a peer reviewer or for the audit quality maturity model, I get markings on that? And I just do it just as to comply with it in letter, not in spirit, and get the marks also in letter and not in spirit. But that's not what AQMM is. AQMM is something which is more in spirit, which needs to be adhered. Now, when we are conducting an engagement, whether we are really independent in that engagement and whether that evaluation of independence is done by all partners, by the managers, by the trainees to the extent it is needed. And is there a way in which we are evaluating self-interest, familiarity, intimidation, self-review, advocacy, and conflict of interest? So is there a formal policy listing that and a formal evaluation of that? So if I just recap, or you recap the questions which are till date, it's not that we don't know what this is. This is all a part of SQC1. The point is whether we really have the structure or the formality in place. We may decide by gut or by instinct whether we need to accept this assignment or not. We may at a very unstructured level have a methodology of testing that we are independent or not. And any such self-interest, familiarity, intimidation, self-review, advocacy, all those parameters which are there, which are all a part of my code of ethics also. I would have been a part of this without actually realizing that I'm doing this formally. Or the other way around is I'm doing this without doing it formally. So it's maybe by gut, by intuition, or by experience of doing one thing over and over again that I might be doing it without having the real structure in place. And if I've withdrawn or I've rejected a particular engagement, is there a formal engagement withdrawal or a rejection policy in place? And do I have templates for that? So it's not just about policies, it's all about the checklists and the templates in place, which I tick mark one on one to ensure that I've adhered to all points as stated in the checklist and I have not skipped or jumped the line. So this is the formality which is needed. This is the structure which is needed. And when there is something which is structured, when there is something which is formal, there is something which cannot be missed out. And once something is not missed out, obviously your efficiency, your effectiveness is higher because you are closer to accuracy. You're closer to perfection. You're closer to excellence. Excellence, perception is a myth, whereas reality is the only actual. So where exactly are we? What are we doing? Where do we stand? And what do we need to do if we want to stand up and go at a next higher level? That's what AQMM is all about with all its questions, all about formality. Let's deep dive on this further. Now, capacity planning for each engagement, there are marks. So at the present moment, let's not look at the marks as such, but let's look at the questions and let's look at the thought. And let's look at the thought that we are having to maintain or enhance quality. So do we really budget the manas which may be required for an assignment? So initially, these would be the manas we would need. And this is just not an ad hoc calculation of manas for an assignment, but actually somebody has really broken his head and used his brains to actually quantify manas based on various stages and processes needed in an audit. And then once you have budgeted it, are you actually maintaining data of what is the time which is actually spent? What are the efforts which are required? What are the efforts which are actually undertaken? And then where are we actually vis-a-vis the budgets? So you do an analysis of the time and efforts actually spent. So what was the costing and the pricing budgeted, and what is the actual costing and pricing which has actually happened? And what is the variance? And you have 20 marks for this. So if the variance is more than 90%, then you don't get any marks. If the variance is from 70 to 90%, then you get about 4 marks only. If the variance is 50 to 70, then 8 marks. If the variance is between 30 to 50, then you get 12 marks. If the variance is between 10 to 30, then you get 16 marks. And you get full marks if the variance is less than 10%. So ideally, I feel most of the firms could be in the 30 to 50% range or the 10 to 30% range. That should be it. I don't think somebody should be so bad to be more than 90% off or 70% off or even more than 50% off. Mostly it will be 10 to 30 and then maybe a few in 30 to 50. But that's how you will get the marks. If you're 30 to 50, you are getting 12 marks. So you're less than 50. So then you are in level 2. And this is not for one question. If overall you are at level less than 50, though you have got in all the 3 criteria put together marks of level 3, you will still be in level 2. So whether you have timesheets, whether you have task management tools where you track each activity of audit, and whether you are using technology to monitor, whether you are using this digital competency maturity model version 2, in case you are using this, you get 8 marks. If not, 0. If you are using this at various stages of technology and tools and techniques, then you would get 2, 4, 6, whatever marks, depending on how you are using it. So now just to brief up on the digital competency maturity model. So you have a digital competency maturity model, again, already come out by the institute. Many of us still don't know about it. We can just Google and know more about it. But this is at 4 levels. 1, the digital competency maturity model is assessed at the audit level. It is assessed at the tax and the compliance level. It is assessed at the accounting and the support function level. And it is at the management consulting service level. So what is this maturity about? And it's all about automating processes that we actually conduct during an audit. It will all depend on the audit services we are rendering. And it also takes into care automation at the client's end. I may be sophisticated, but the client may be not, or vice versa. The client may be extremely sophisticated and I may be not. And in that case, it also talks about access and training, which is given to my team on such sophisticated softwares. And am I able to handle digital evidence? Am I able to take necessary backups, take necessary storage, have that in my custody? Who did it? When did it happen? Who is the custodian? All the information I need for digital evidence has to be there. So I need to be competent. I need to be technologically savvy also. Again, it's at tax and compliance level. Again, what is the automation at the client's end and whether I have access to it, whether that software can be customized, and whether my people have got sufficient training on that. Then is at the accounting and support function level. So same, the automation at my end, at the client end, and the access to various sophisticated tools and techniques and employee training. Then again, at the management consulting service level, it's all about the services rendered. It's all about automation at my end and at the client's end, and the access or the restriction on the software and the training which I've had on the software. And based on each one, there is the DCCM, you have version 2 for audits, which is C1, tax and compliance C2, accounting and support services C3, and other management consulting services, you have C4. So this is about digital competency maturity model. Now the quality control for engagement. Do we have a process of having a partner review, a partner quality review, a documentation of the time a partner has spent for engagement, for review activities? And you have 8 marks for that. So you see, it's not just assessing the engagement, it's also assessing the partner who's doing the engagement, the quality and the competency of the partner. So how much time he spent, how much time he spent on review, how much time he spent for various other activities, what he's done. And then based on the process of reviews, first is having a review, and then what is the outcome of the review? So internally, you'll have to have a process where you grade yourself satisfactorily. And whether more than 90% of your engagements are graded satisfactorily, then you will get full marks. If vice versa, if it's less than 10%, you won't get any marks. And 10, 30, 50, 70, 90, you get 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20 marks respectively. Again, one way is that I need to have a process in place, and I will get to the mark stage only if I am doing a review based on the process. Many firms may not have a process of partner review. So if they don't have a process of partner review, they may not get any marks there, and they will not get any of the 20 marks either, because in the absence of a process, you don't know whether engagements have been conducted satisfactorily or not. And what's the percentage which has been done? And then if there are any engagements, whether there are any findings by the institute or by any committees or by any regulators which say that significant improvements need to be done. Then again, how many such assignments you have got? How many such assignments were rated, and in how many such assignments did you get strictures? So you might get 20 marks if you have no such stricture, or based on the strictures you have got as a percentage of the assignments, your marks will go down. And individually marks going down will aggregate to those marks going down, and you would be at lower levels, or you might be at lower level in one parameter. And though you may be good at other parameters, the lower level in one parameter will push you down to the lower criteria. So SQC1 talks of 6 areas. And that's how SQC1 is interlinked, straight from SQC. So whether you have the documentation in place for the 6 areas, if you have those documentation in place for each of those 6 areas tabulated in SQC1, you get 12 marks. Otherwise, depending on how deep you have this documentation, you will lose marks. So do you have a soft copy of Q&As, the firm thought leadership, dedicated shared technical desk, trainings which are available, video recordings of webinars, seminars that have taken place? Are these archived that they can be called upon and viewed whenever required? The marks for that. And then whether there is an appropriate time spent on understanding the business, the risk assessment, the engagement planning, mitigation of risk through performance of audit procedures, 12 marks. Again, straight from essay. Time spent on understanding the business and the risk assessment, straight pick up from essay 315. Engagement planning, again, straight pick up from essay. Mitigation of risk through performance of audit procedures, again, essay 330, auditor's response to assessed risks. So you do your essay and SQC1 well, you are already in level 2. You just cannot be in level 1. Level 1 will be for those firms which don't even follow the essays either in letter or in spirit. Again, service benchmarking. Do you have a standard service methodology of delivery? And when we talk of methodology and delivery, whether you have audit manuals, whether you have audit toolkits, practice standards, and whether you are adhering to those standard toolkits and manuals. If you are, you get marks. And in how many cases of engagements is there a reworking which is done? So there were errors. There was some information which was not received, or we made some basic errors. We wrongly interpreted some provisions of the law. Now, based on where these was wrong, so instead of this 10, 30, 50, 70, 90, here you have 5, 15, 30, 50, and over 30. So where it's more than 50% A, you have negative marking. So if there is no error, then it's fine. You don't get any negative marks. You are 0. But if you have errors of up to 5%, then you lose 1 mark. Or less than 5%, you don't lose any mark. If it's 5 to 15, you lose 1 mark. 15 to 30, you lose 2 marks. 30 to 50, you lose 3 marks. And over 50, you completely lose 4 marks. So it's -4. Again, addressal of client disputes. If there are disputes with the clients other than fees or work quality or otherwise. Again, in how many engagements you have this? If it's more than 50%, then you have again -4 marks. If it's less than 5%, it's fine. You get 0 marks. But up to 15% of your engagements, you have disputes with clients, then you lose a mark. And that increases to 2, 3, and 4 on 15 to 30, 30 to 50, and more than 50. And audit timelines. Have you met timelines? Are there any delays? Are there any backlogs? And the clear caveat is these backlogs other than from the client side. If you have any delays which are attributing to you, then you would lose marks. And if you adhere to timelines, done work within timeline, you will get the full marks. But that you have to do it for all the assignments which you have done. So what is the percentage of assignments where you have delayed? And based on that, you will have up to 12 marks, which is there. And see the beauty of this para. Client sensitization. Do you have awareness and knowledge dissemination meetings with the client? Formal meetings of awareness and knowledge dissemination on formal updation on audit issues, effectiveness of communication processes with those charged with governance, updation on changes on regulations impacting the clients, follow up on previous audit issues and update to those charged with governance. So one is we're conducting an audit and there have been some changes which have happened. Do I have meetings with clients to brief them on what the changes are? What according to you would it impact the audit risk? Or what were the issues noted in previous audits? What is the status of those issues as of current date? Are there any issues which were noted in the previous year still not rectified? Then if there is a process of communicating with those charged with governance, then am I taking stock of what is the communication process? Is this process smooth? Is this transparent? Is this healthy? If it's not, then I need to discuss with the management and clear whatever choked lines are there. And formal updation on audit issues. Do I have timely updation of audit issues to the management, those charged with governance? Or is it only at the end of the audit that I come up with all the issues? So it's always a good practice to keep the client informed periodically ASAP. Maybe each Friday evening you can have a meeting, or maybe depending on the seriousness, maybe twice a week, or maybe an alternate day, maybe at the end stages, that meeting time could be shortened. But see the beauty, see the various aspects in which the Center of Audit Quality and the committee members which are all there with maybe cumulative experience of more than 500 audit years. They've created a structure in which it's all about formality, it's all about training, it's all about assessment. And that's how you would improve quality. So are you monitoring planned hours versus actual hours across audit engagements? And are you focusing on existence of a monitoring mechanism? So if you have a mechanism, yes, you have 8 marks. If you don't have a mechanism, 0. So clear like our controls. Do you have a control in place? Is there a design? You'll get marks only if there is a design. If there's no design, then you don't have any marks. If that design is operating effectively, you'll get marks, almost the full marks. But depending on your efficiency of operations and implementation, you'll move from the 0 marks to the topmost marks. Now the technology which is adopted. You have various marks for that. 64 marks in all. Whether you have internal communication chats, it could be a WhatsApp chat, it could be an email chat, it could be any group. Whether the internal communication chats is there, yes, pretty much a practice which is implemented across firms. Automated attendance and leave management system, leave across all mid-sized and savvy small firms also. This is obviously there. Activity and timesheet management, yes, there amongst most of the firms I know. Digital storage of records, yes, not completely there, but we are moving towards there. Records are still manually maintained, but yes, we are slowly moving towards digitization. Digital library, yes, slowly moving. The speed needs to be picked up. So maybe we may not get full marks here, maybe 2 marks or so. Client interaction, website updation, yes, firms have taken this seriously, and basically this is being updated real time or as close to real time or periodically. Whether you are on a centralized server and cloud, yes, most of the companies are. Video conferencing facilities available, yes, most of the firms have Zoom, Teams, Zoho chats, whatever. Usage of licensed software, yes, across all firms, I would say. Email domains and email usage policies. Email domains are there. Email usage policies have also been framed. Antivirus and malware protection tools, yes. Maybe we need to buy more latest tools. But yes, offhand nothing as something which is not there. Data security, yes, slowly in spirit. This is being taken care of. Cyber security measures, again, slowly. In smaller firms, I'm saying it's depending on the size, the volume of the firm, depending on its attitude of the main partner towards quality. That's how you will see various audit tools, analytical tools, data visualization tools being used and adopted. So you will have marks for all of these. And whether you have a DCMM version 2 and you are using that version to arrive at digital maturity, if that's there and being used, you will get marks. Otherwise, you'll get 0 marks for it. Now, revenue budgeting. What is the client-wise revenue? So no revenue from any client should be more than 40%. If it's more than 40%, then you don't get any marks. Over a period of time, it's being put down to 15%. So not more than 15% of your revenue should be from a single client. And if there are restraints on fees. Those fees should not serve as a restraint on the scope of work which you have done and the documentation which you are maintaining. And that documentation clearly is as per SQC 1 and SEs. So are you adhering to the minimum scale of fees as per ICAI standards? If you are adhering, you will get marks. If that is adhered for 50% or more of the assignment, you get full marks. If it's up to 50%, you get some marks. And if you're not adhering to the ICAI fee standards and having your own fee standards, which are much lower, maybe either due to competition or basically because you have only getting it through undercutting, because price is the factor, not quality. And technically, if in none of the engagements you are following ICAI standard rules, then you don't get any marks. Now, resource planning. Is there a process for employee resource planning based on experience and skill sets? So what are the skill sets I need? What are the skill sets I have? What are the skill set gaps I have? And I'm going to fill up those skill set gaps. Do I have a process in place? And what are the methods, tools I'm using for resource allocation? So do I have spreadsheet? Do I have workflows? And how do I track employee identity and identify resource productivity? Do I have timesheets for that? Or what is the productivity? How do I assess that a particular employee is productive? I'm not going by hearsay. I'm actually measuring. And I should have methodology and processes in place. So based on that, I get marks. Now, do I have a minimum staff to partner ratio, a partner to manager ratio, a manager to articles ratio, a staff to client ratio? If I have ratios and if I'm meeting those, I get marks. Am I monitoring the utilization and realization rate per employee? Am I documenting resource planning for each engagement and filing it for reference during the engagement? And this is what I've planned. This is what I'm actually doing. This is how I'm monitoring if there are any deviations. So just see the points which have been raised, and it's not about rating, because in a lot of cases you may not have such ratios laid down. So whether you have a staff to partner ratio, formal ratio laid down, a partner to manager ratio, so a partner will only handle say 5 managers max. And how much would be a staff allocated to a manager so that he will eventually report to a partner? Or how many articles will report to a manager? Or is there any direct reporting line between an article and a partner? What is the staff to client ratio? Are you maintaining that? What was it last year? What is it current year? Has it increased? Has it gone down? Has it increased or decreased due to the scope of work? Or is it because of attrition? I've had somebody new and he's taking more time. So am I really planning it and executing it? See the thought process, see the activities that you would need to do. You would need to document. Employee training and development. Do I have an employee training policy? So it starts down with having a policy. The next is whether I'm implementing the policy. And do I have professional development hours? How many days I spent on professional development? And that not to just general training, but specialized training. So 60 hours per year for juniors, 30 to 60 for mid-level, and 30 hours for partners. Am I really taking 30 hours of training? For my juniors, am I giving them 60 hours of training, both specific and general? And do I have a performance culture that rewards high performing employees and those who are demonstrating high quality of work performance and ethics? So how do I measure that? So culture, a very key factor brought in here. How do I measure culture? Do I have a system of rewarding high performance employees? So how do I measure performance? So is my compensation policy fair, or am I compensating employees based on their rapport, their feedback, or how they butter you up? So straight objective criteria for performance evaluation. Marks based on that. Do I use analytical tools to conduct audit for data analysis? Do I use AI? Do I use blockchain? Am I in the knowledge or awareness of all the latest technological developments which are happening in the globe? And artificial intelligence and blockchain is the incremental differentiating factor. So am I having that, or am I moving towards that? Now, based on the tools I have, I don't blindly apply those tools for audits. I need to customize, or I need to adjust my audit strategy based on the tools I have. So am I fast? And when I mean fast, am I flexible? Am I adaptable? I'm speedy. I'm timely. And what I use another acronym, do I hurt mad? Am I helpful, useful, and relevant with trust to make a difference? And another acronym, do I use my CCTV 101%, 25 by 8 by 366? And when I mean my CCTV, my competency, credibility, my talent, and the values I bring on the table to execute my audits. And how do I train? If I may be good, but are my employees equally good? How do I analyze skill set gaps? And how do I fulfill those skill set gaps? And this is how am I looking at quality? Quality in a very broad, mature way. Then the turnover. How much is the team composition? What is the ideal team? And what is the team of assistants, managers, articles, paid employees I should have? And how do I develop it along the way? And I'm maintaining and monitoring firm turnover ratios. And are there policies and procedures in place on how I should reduce this attrition if there are any? How many qualified firms are retained? How many qualified professionals are retained by a firm? So am I having 10 and more professionals which I'm retaining for more than a year or maybe over 3 years? And based on that, I get my marks. And what is the average age which professional should spend with the firm? How much is one really spending? How much is one I have declared as ideal as per my policy? Do I evaluate the relationship quotient? Do I audit my internal audit culture? Do I have reasons on which I assess the attrition? And am I really doing it to improve internally and create a culture of quality, of competency, of integrity, of ethics, of values, of shared values, a culture where high performance is rewarded, a culture where quality is appreciated? So do I have statutory contributions? I have PF, ESIC benefits available to staff, partners, health insurance, other benefits. Do I have a revolving door policy for below partner level profession staff for various engagements and audits? So somebody can just walk in and have discussions with partners whenever needed. Or there's a strict protocol. No, if it's an article, he'll deal with only a senior article with a manager with a junior partner, a junior partner only with a senior partner. Is there a hierarchy, or is there an open door policy, or is there a town hall where somebody can meet maybe once in a month? Are there outbounds? Are there occasions where you break the ice with your junior employees? So various means in which you increase the bonding, the team spirit, and the camaraderie across. And is there an established framework for time management, time commitment, and how is the progress evaluated? So is there an engagement level review of overall performance? And based on performance, is there a differentiated review mechanism? So somebody is doing the work in 4 hours and somebody is doing it in 8 hours. So the person who is doing it in 4 hours is basically doing almost double the work that the person who is doing it in 8 hours is. So is that person compensated more? Or because he's doing that work in 4 hours, he leaves early, is his salary actually being deducted for that? So is efficiency at a premium? Is quality at a premium? Or is it discounted? So what is the availability and access to technology, infrastructure, and what is the methodology I'm using to better my work every day? If I'm working from home, are there remote working policies? Now, this is something which is quite good. Is there a specific mention of coaching and mentoring of women colleagues to enhance diversity of audit leaders in the profession? So is there the diversity, engagement, and inclusion policy in place, and are there women leaders in the organization? Are there women partners? Are there women managers? Are there lady articles? This should interest many. Is there a policy to provide rejuvenation time post busy audit periods? So maybe post June, what is, let's say 31st July, when you would have filed your tax returns, though tax is not coming here, but let's say 30th June, when you would have filed all your statutory audits of banking companies. And maybe now you would have cleared off all your statutory audits because September is the last day for filing the returns with the ROC as well as filing the tax returns. So accounts would be ready by this time. So post this, is there a rejuvenation time? You have an outbound, you have get-togethers, whatever. And do you have focused policies for staff well-being, engagement, and communication? So this should interest many. So HR is really a key piece here where they've really looked into the HR well-being. And is there an established mechanism to listen to employee views, suggestions, credible employee surveys, and demonstration that people are actually cared and heard? So good. Credible employee surveys. Demonstration that people are actually cared and heard. And so caring and hearing and demonstration. So it's not just laying down policies. Laying down policies is just the basic part. It's the design. It's the implementation that matters. And implementation is not just into practice management operations. It is into HR also. So both HR and practice management, which account for 520 marks out of the 600, are all about action on the ground. And 40% is purely focused on the employees because they are the ones who will matter. It's technology, but who's driving the technology? Who's the man behind or the woman behind the technology? That's what is material. And what are you doing to increase their well-being, their engagement, their communication? How do we rejuvenate them? How do we train them? How do we make diversity? How do we give them the necessary technological support, infrastructure? It's all about employees here. And how do we recruit people? What are the basis of recruitment? What are the standards we have laid down? And how do we fit employees to the job and culture? How do we do a quality evaluation? What is the quality needed for a particular role? Then who's the resource I should take, who should fit that quality? And then how do I train him? How do I give him the necessary confidence and support? If he makes mistakes, how do I ensure that he learns quickly from it? He's not discouraged. There's no loss of confidence. And is there a defined compensation approach where salary is mapped to knowledge and the experience level of employee? So this is a formal compensation approach. Knowledge is supreme. Experience is supreme. Am I rewarding that? And it's not just policies. It's also the happening on the ground. And that's the basis on which I will rate myself in spirit, not just letter of the law. Now, how many qualified professional members do I have? So, more than 50% of my employees are qualified, or is it 30%, or it is less than 30%? It should be a tall order, but yes. Some firms may lose marks here. But yes, they can score in some other ways. Now, partners' compliance with CP requirements, services of experts taken where qualified resources are not available. DISA, IP, or similar certifications. I can score here. Members with specialized certifications like IFRS, IND-AS, and other accreditations. So how many members, how many professionals have these? If more than 50% of your partners or members have these specialized gradations, you'll get the full mark. So it's all about training, and it's all about having trained, certified, qualified people on the roles. And it's all about taking professionals in service. And if you see, ideally, the professional to non-professional should be at least 30% or more to get at least the minimum marks which are there. Then the firm's performance evaluation criteria. Do I have written policies for performance evaluation of a firm and its partners? So how do I evaluate the performance of a firm? And how do I evaluate the performance of its partners? Do I have written policies in place? Is there a method for measurement and evaluation? And that method is specific and determined? And if there is a frequency, is that evaluation consistent, or it's not at a one time at on somebody's whims and fancies. It's a consistent, sustained application and evaluation on a desired frequency, say maybe once in 3 months, once in 6 months, once annually. And then is there a review of the work of the engagement partner? And what is the engagement partner review result? And if that result is satisfactory or non-satisfactory, if it's satisfactory, am I sustaining it? If it's non-satisfactory, why is it non-satisfactory and what am I doing to improve it? And if you look at the AQMM, I've just curtailed it for short because this is a short presentation just to make awareness. So where there are written policies, the audit quality maturity model will give enough guidelines on what criteria or what the policy should contain to evaluate a firm and its partners. And you would get a lot of it in SQC1 also. But the AQMM guide which will be there, which will contain all the standard policies or all the criteria which you need to evaluate to do this. So is there a balanced mix of experienced and new assurance partners? So what is the average partner experience? Is it more than 10 years? And is it more than 5 years? How many branches do you have? So are we compliant with the ICAI Code of Ethics, the Companies Act 2013 and other regulatory on professional independence and conflict of interest? Do we have a whistleblower policy? Obviously all firms would have. But is this whistleblower policy made aware? Is this being used, or people are not using this because they feel nothing will come out of it? So how many branches do we have? How many associates, network firms and affiliates we have? So there are marks. The more the network, the more the associates, the more the branches, the more marks we have. So that's on infrastructure. Are the activities for, if it's a firm with various branches, are the activities like accounting, invoicing and payroll processing centralized or decentralized? Higher marks for centralization, lower marks for decentralization. Then how is the information which you are generating, how is it shared? How is it implemented across locations? And what are the physical and logical security arrangements across? So there are branches for where they could be in the same city, where they could be in metros, tier 1 cities. What is the team size per branch? Various other criteria are there on the basis of which markings are done. So the point to be noted here is the infrastructure. So do I have the necessary IT infrastructure? And based on the complexity of the assignment, is the relevant infrastructure used depending on the complexity? And whether I have the necessary internet, intranet, networking bandwidth, the VPN, the Wi-Fi for remote networking, is it available? Do I have a laptop or a desktop assigned to each employee? What is the hardware which is being used? Am I using some outdated Windows on my machines which are basically out of support or are nearing end of support? So the infrastructure is given marks. And do I have a peer review certification? Yes. I'll get marks for that. Am I empaneled with the RBI or CAG? Yes, if I am, I'll get marks. Is there an advisory or a decision by the CAG that work should not be allocated due to some unsatisfactory work performance done? If this is so, then I'll get negative marking of 5. If there are no adverse remarks, fine, I will not get any marks. No positive marks here. If there's a negative comment, I'll get -5. Am I debarred, blacklisted by government bodies or authorities? I'll get -10 marks. Is there a negative assessment in a quality review board assessment? I'll get -5 marks. And if there is a case of professional misconduct on a part of a member where the firm is proved guilty, I'll get -5 marks. Now just see here. This has 80 marks and there is negative marking. For me, if I get negative marks in any of these, even though I have good marks up there, any negative mark may mean that I may not get. So let's assume I'm in level 3 across and enough marks across. But here I get less than 50% marks. I'll still be in level 2. If I have negative marks here, I could be less than 25% marks and I could be in level 1. So it's not just the markings in the particular criteria among the 3. It's a consistent marking in all the 3, which will matter. So if it's between 50 to 75, you may have 15-1, you may have 16-1, you may have 17-1. But if you have 14-1 and more than 16-2, so you may still be more than 50, but because of the 40, you will be in level 2. So all 3 are interdependent and you will need to make use of it. So I take a 2-minute break. Any questions at this stage, I'll take it and I'll just continue for 5-10 more minutes. And then I'll wrap up and conclude with SQC and how SQC is related to this.
Sir, one novice query from my side, if you permit me.
Yes.
Sir, let us say in a place like Vijayawada, there are more practitioners who are proprietors, and they may be having 2 or 3 permanent staff, 4 or 5 article students. Their areas of practice include some statutory audits, like companies, some 4 or 5 or 10. Some tax audits and compliance work and income tax returns filing. Let us say this is the way in which some of us do practice in our area. Now for us, this AQMM model, maybe I was listening all the way of your talk. Some of the questions I don't think we might be answering, because let us say like what you call this HR policy or some questions which we have come across may not be that much relevant to us. So will there be any short form for the people like the way in which we do the practice, or
now let me
for everyone?
So one is, at the current stage, this is mandatory for firms which are doing audits of listed entities. So what they want is, so let's assume that there is a proprietary firm. Now, proprietary firm, there is nothing which bars a proprietor from not having structured policies in place. HR policies my personal view is, even if it's a proprietor firm, it should have structured HR policies. Maybe you may not have more than 50% of your employees as professionals. Yes, you may not score marks there. But having a culture of quality, having a culture of rewarding high performance, having a policy of rejuvenation, having a policy of revolving door, which could be very common for a proprietary firm because there are less tiers, but a fitment culture, a training culture. I really don't think that culture needs big firms also. You can network across firms and have training, right? Now technically, let's say, why do you have your what do you call the current session which is there? Now at 100 rupees is you can have a training session. You already have about, I don't know, you get 2 CPRs, 4 CPRs with this. Now let's assume maybe more. So 60 hours is not great for somebody to do it. And ideally, you can, this session is recorded. You can even share the recording later on and people can listen. So there may not be a monetary crunch. So I personally believe if there is a willingness to learn, obviously there is no constraint. So infrastructure, there are 80 marks. But again, in that infrastructure, there is negative marks for bad performance. If you see overall, if a proprietary firm does well on standards of auditing and SQC, which is basic, it will easily be in level 2. And if it just is very future focused and oriented and bit technologically savvy, which a lot of current proprietary firms are. So somebody at my age who's worked manually, who's tallied a trial balance manually and spent days on tallying a trial balance as an article, he would definitely be slightly challenged. So that's where the reverse mentoring comes in. So I may be handling a strategy part in my firm. I may be handling the risk assessment part of my firm, but technology may be handled by a more junior, by a more technology savvy partner. So it's basically a combination of diverse strengths. So that's where, whether you have women partners in your firm, they bring different levels of skills. So one is, that's what I said, is there an analysis of what skills a firm needs to have and what are the gaps and how do I fulfill it? So level 2 for any proprietary firm is not difficult to achieve it if it's determined and dedicated. And with certain WIP and support, it can go to level 3. Level 4, I feel, yes, difficult. But level 3, yes, definitely possible. And currently what they want is, they want firms which are doing audits of listed companies where the stakeholder involvement is much there and the pressure on having an audit quality is much there because you are under public scrutiny and public funds are involved. There they want bigger firms, not bigger firm. It's not the question of a big firm, big size. It's the requirement of a firm which has the necessary policies, structures and methodologies in place. So you may have a 25-member firm which may not have this, but a 10-member firm having all these policies, procedures and digital savviness in place. And these firms would score over firms which have basically been slop, which have the flab, which have the inertia, which are not early movers or advantage takers of technology, which have taken their employees for granted. I think the direction is very clear that you are moving in an era where you are being strategic, you are being operationally savvy, and you are having a very energized, very engaged, a very motivated, a very committed, a very determined, a very dedicated, a very competent, a firm full of integrity and values on the table. So it's not that it's proprietary. I believe they have also invited networking, collaborations, and that's where you could score upon. So maybe I've just never handled taxation ever in my life. I would not even know what GST is except for some basic knowledge. But I'm specializing in a particular area of risk management, frauds, ethic, governance, and that's what I've been doing for the last 30 years. And there are other partners in my firm who are handling tax. So whenever tax issues come in, they step in, I step down. So it's all about mutual coordination, cooperation. It's all about communication. As I say, communicate, to collaborate, to co-elevate each other. And it's mutual win-wins. It's working for growth and development of all. It's all about validation. It's all about feedback. And what I say is you need three people in your life to really grow. One is an accountability partner who will push you. You need a mastermind group. So that's where we have the study circles who are mastermind groups. We have these meetings where we spread knowledge, we spread awareness. We have different perspectives. My perspective would be different on an audit. Your perspective may be different, but each perspective is unique. Each perspective needs to be respected. As I say, the respect, the appreciation, the recognition, and the encouragement. So the acronym of RARE, that's rare. And that's what we need to create, a culture of respect, of appreciation, of encouragement, and recognition. And that's where we'll have quality in place. So I've answered this.
Yes, sir.
So let me now just bring back, earlier I used to take this earlier. Now let me specifically go into 6 elements and systems of SQC1. And SQC1 has come way back, all of you know. My HUMM has come in 2021 or 2022. My SQC was 12 years back. And SQC talked of 6 elements. And we have almost a decade plus in SQC. And what are these SQC elements? The first element, see the first element, leadership responsibility for quality control within the firm. So quality control was talked about and leadership way back. The point is nobody has taken SQC1 seriously. SQC1 was just for theory. If SQC1 is really practiced and imbibed in a daily DNA, we are easily in level 2 to start with, without the AQMM. Requirements, clearly a part of SQC. Acceptance and continuance of client relationships and specific engagement. This is what are markings in AQMM now. Human resources, see this, 240 marks of human resources, 40%. Engagement performance. Your operations is all about engagement performance and monitoring. So SQC1 way back had imbibed AQMM. So whenever I've spoken earlier, I had first spoken on this and taken to AQMM. Now I spoke on AQMM and took you back to SQC. So this was what we had years back. The point is when we are seeing this in the marking form, we are suddenly saying, hey, this is a marking, maybe difficult to achieve, but this was what was there right from day one. And this was applicable to all audits, not just audits of historical financial information. So this was even applicable to SREs. And quality is a culture. So what is quality? Again, quality could mean, I'm saying different concepts to different people. So ISO would define quality. It could be judgment. It could be a degree of excellence, how good or bad something is. And there could be various adjectives of quality: exceptional, impressive, high grade, unusual, superb, wonderful, awesome, amazing, exemplary, polished. It's a commitment to a niche. It's a predictable degree of uniformity, dependability, suitability, appropriateness, conformity to requirements. It's something which is acceptable, appropriate, and aspirational. It's client focused. It's a continuous process improvement, people engagement, evidence-based decision making, relationship building, rapport, process improvements, benchmarking, perceptions, assurance, control, quality of not just information, but also of the experience and expertise. So you have various quality methods, TQM, the Kaizens, the ISOs, Six Sigmas, the Ikigais, the quality circles, all the Japanese Taguchis, Kansei, zero waste, all the defects program, the PPR, the top-down, bottom-up approaches, the various certifications you have. So we have talked about quality enough times. It's now what we are doing is a very fundamental basic principle is what can be measured can be improved, and what can be measured can be really felt, and it pinches also if you are at a lower level or so it's just moving up the curve. And it's again, it's not just the marks which are important, it's the policies which are important. So do you have a culture? Do you have the audit manuals? Do you have the process manuals? Are you having the culture of rewarding high performance? Do you have training systems? Do you have diversity? Do you have a rejuvenation policy? Do you have the necessary technology? So it's all about adopting all these. And it's not just that you can adopt it individually. You can obviously collaborate with other firms. And this is where the leadership of branches can take across and make internal quality circles. So somewhere if the blockchain or AI is there, you can have some functional experts who would guide other members on this. If you need something on employee engagement or then you would have somebody who would be an HR resource or an NLP resource or an soft skill expert who would guide people on this. So you could have horses for courses, and within a local area, create your own functional expert leaders who can guide other members to reach higher levels and targets. So I take a break. Any questions? I'm willing to answer.
Friends, you are allowed to unmute yourself. Sir, this evaluation, I think it will be hosted on a SSP portal, sir.
See, the evaluation currently is internal. It's not mandatory. See,
Okay.
what I would suggest is each member can do his own evaluation. And if one does an evaluation, there'll be areas where he'll be good at, and there'll be areas where he'll be bad at. Now, bad at that will be two things. One, where there are areas where he's not getting good marks, where I would say actually where he's bad at. I won't say bad at, but where he's not getting good marks, where he can improve with having a structure or a methodology in place. So one is there are things within my achievable site. Very easily I can do this. I can either take help of other faculties, or I can create my own quality circles and help them. So let's say you are a proprietary firm. There can be a mid-sized firm who may take, let's say I will help you in drafting a policy or guiding or training your employees on this aspect. I'll handle the engagement part. The rejuvenation part is you can have a community picnic after, let's say, 30th of September somewhere. That obviously each of the branches do. So you can link this to a AQMM program. That's one which is achievable at the firm level. That is some which the study circle can cumulatively and lower the cost for a member. Availability of technology. The institute is already making various tools available at a nominal cost. Insurance, there is already a group insurance in place. having women partners, you are already having a woman chairman. There is easily firms where there are women who are included, who are given, and there are more women articles doing pursuing this course and becoming professional. So a lot of these things are controllable and can be achieved. Now the question is, there would be certain things where there might be a cost, or there might be prohibitive because maybe I may not afford it. Now there I would look at where I would subsidize it. But if you look at this, I would still not go out. And if I want, I can easily be at level 3. We've looked at all permutation combinations, what a mid-sized or a small-sized firm can also do. And somebody with a clear vision and mission to achieve, and with the help and support and the willingness, he can easily land up at level 3. Level 1 is something which no firm should ever be. Level 2, yes. Most of the firms, I believe about 10% firms would be in level 4 or 5% currently. This is my personal view. About 30% would be in level 3. Maybe about 50% would be in level 2. And very few would be in level 1. So I think the point is, for the level 2 firms to move into level 3, have a target, say maybe within, so I would, this is just wishful thinking on my personal nothing, but somewhere within, if you are doing this exercise across, let's say, a Vijayawada zone, then no firm, the target should be in level 1. We'll all help you get to the next level. So that could be the first thing which somebody can do. Level 4, yes, if there is a firm with a level 4, then that firm should be a role model, and that firm should enable people who are at level 2 to go higher. Level 3 firm should help the lower. So the higher firm should help the lower firm with, because they already have set policies, practices in place. It's all about sharing. It's all about collaborating. It's all about collaborating. It's all about helping each other for mutual win-wins. It's all about sharing knowledge and experiences. So we all are there. I'm in some part of Mumbai. I've never ever seen any of you before, but here I'm speaking openly. Anywhere, if you need, I'm available at a phone call to share my perspective. So if anybody needs any guidance, okay, I'm scoring less in this, what should I do? I've been one who have been involved in the EQMM. I can easily give him my inputs and perspectives. So one, I always think, now I'm very harsh on myself. So I would tend to give me a lower score. So if I rate myself, I would seriously find myself in level 2, because I feel that I can do much better and go to level 3. For me, my benchmarking is at a very high level. I will never say that I'm 10 out of 10. I'll always say 8 is the best. 9 is the unrealistic target for me. 10 is non-achievable, because I'm not an expert. I'm not God to go to 10. I can at best go to 9. And I would be happy with 8. But I would rate myself 6 or 7 everywhere. So I would still be at best at level 3. Because for me, level 4 is a moving exceptional target. But somebody may think differently. So this is where you have an external person validating, because somebody can be really harsh on himself, or somebody may just be all
more liberal towards himself.
More liberal towards himself. So the point is, you have to be fair. It's the spirit which is mattering more, because here there is no competition. It's recommendatory. And gradually, yes, if somebody wants to really deep dive into it, then there'll be independent certifications. And that's where I believe a structure will come in. And there will be peer reviewers, or there will be specialized faculties or specialized people who would be available to basically grade people. Now, this is the first level of creating awareness. Then the second is basically that would be the discussion on the policies which have been drafted. Okay, so this is a policy. How do I have a standard policy? Or this is what am I done? So what are the suggestions which I could do to move better? Obviously, once you do the markings, it will be known to you. It's very easy that this is these are the marks I need to go up. How do I get those marks? And it's not about getting the marks. It's about setting the processes. Once you set the processes, the marks will take care by itself. And as I said, it's all about taking care of the SQC1. All members need to read the SQC1 and implement that in letter. Simple. Once you have implemented the SQC, I think you are already at level 2, at a very high level of level 2. If you have done SQC1, you are already, I believe, I had done all calculations, you are already at 40, 45 marks. It's just a simple push. You need to go to level 3.
Right.
So it's nothing but, as I say, the same old wine in a new bottle in a marking format. The SQC1 is the real base behind it. The essays are the real base. So if you see the SQCs, if you see my presentation, I'll share my presentation. It's all about SQCs. It's just that the SQC was theory. This is what they have given it in a marking form.
Yes. Measurement of the implementation.
Measurement of quality, simple.
Yes.
And it's nothing very complex, nothing complicated, nothing geared towards bigger firms. It's anybody can do it.
Fine, sir. That was a very nice talk because you are in a better position because you are the person who is involved in shaping this AQMM. That's what I understand. So right from the basic, you have dealt with this subject, which made this session a very fruitful one. Also, this session is also recorded on YouTube, sir. Vijayawada branch has a YouTube channel which has some around 24,000 subscribers.
Oh, great.
24,000 subscribers, and we have around 450. All the VCMs for the last 2.5 years, what we have done is we have telecasted live on YouTube also, sir. So those recordings are available, and it is a repository of knowledge. We boast of our channel to be a repository of knowledge. We will definitely share the link of Vijayawada branch. You just, if you find some time.
Sure, sure, definitely I'll go through it. And as you said, knowledge is something which everybody now has at its disposal with the digitized world. It's the application of knowledge. So it's your design is there. How do you actually implement it? How the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So the policies, you can get structured policies, you can get structured checklists, but are you really in the spirit of it implementing the policy? That's what is matters, and that's it's all up to us to really do it. So it's I believe in the Nike slogan, just do it, and we are all students. I think we are continuously learning, and the more I also believe, the more I speak on a particular subject, each time I speak differently. I try to bring a different flavor to it. So it makes you a much better professional also.
Yes, yes. The qualities of a seasoned speaker, definitely, yes, sir.
These have also talked about a lot about soft skills. So it's not just the technical skills. So this is where our GMCS course, I think it's a great course. I think it needs to be taken much more seriously, because what we slightly need to improve is our presentation, our positioning skills, our communication skills, and mainly the softer virtues of basically bonding, teamwork, rapport. I think once we do that, I think it will be more fun place, and we'll enjoy what we are actually doing. Then it's a very boring, tedious arithmetical exercise.
The institute is taking this GMCS and orientation very seriously, sir.
Yes.
So attendance is online through biometric devices connected to the head office servers. And also of late, some 3 or 4 months back, the CC cameras with voice have been enabled.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So all the branches wherein the classes are conducted, they are connected to the head office. So there is a very good surveillance over the conduct of these classes. So, and we at Vijayawada are very strict with regard to attendance and with regard to the punctuality of the students.
Sure. Great. So thanks for inviting me. Anytime you need me to brainstorm on anything or anything on a one-on-one basis, you can share my number to anybody. I'm available. Maybe I may be late to respond. So technically, when I'm speaking, I may not have seen my phone for about a couple of hours, but I would definitely get back within the next 24 hours to anybody.
Right, sir. Thank you very much
Anytime.
for your
Thank you.
precious time, and we will be looking forward to have more sessions and guidance in the future.
Anytime. Thank you.
So thank you one and all. We will